Greetings, pledges. A woman gained weight to qualify for The Biggest Loser, and most of you are doing the same, just slower. This is about drift, denial, and the culture that calls collapse comfort. Let's begin. So I watched The Biggest Loser documentary this weekend, and honestly, don't waste your time. Whoever produced it obviously were friends with the creators and the producers of that show. It wasn't hard hitting in the least, and it's just honestly not worth 3 hours of your life. But there were a few things that stood out to me and that I found interesting. The fact that both of the trainers for the show were completely unqualified to coach these people. They had never coached obese people before. And you could tell by how they were training these people. There is nothing that I hate more than seeing fat people run. It pisses me off. It's like, do you want to have your knees replaced? Running at 400 pounds is like having 800 pounds of pressure on your knees and ankle every single step you take. These people were doing high impact workouts. They were jumping, sprinting, and I get it, right? Nobody on television wants to watch morbidly obese people walk and do water aerobics. That's not going to get any views, but that's how these people needed to be training. They were too big for these kinds of movements. There was a doctor for the show, and he seemed like a really great guy. He had previously been the physician for the Raiders football team, and he was trying to get the contestants to eat at least, for the women, at least 1,200 calories a day, and for the men, at least 1,500 calories a day, because they were burning like 6,000 calories a day from these insane workouts. And the trainers kept ignoring his advice. They were telling the contestants, both the men and women, that they needed to be eating 800 calories. And Jillian Michaels was giving them caffeine pills, when the doctor had said no caffeine for these morbidly obese people doing this insane exercise. These people already had cardiovascular issues. They're diabetic. Like, these are not healthy people. The trainers were so unqualified in every possible way. They really needed to be sued. But that was the interesting thing about the documentary as well. These people were forced to literally sign their life away before they could get on the show. And one of the women, she said the document was so long, she asked for a lawyer just so she could ask some questions. And they told her that if she needed a lawyer, then they would replace her with somebody else who actually wanted to be there. So these people gave up their right to sue if anything happened. If they died on the show, oh well, they still couldn't sue. But yeah, so the trainers basically put these people on crash diets. They destroyed their metabolisms and basically ensured that these people were absolutely going to gain the weight back plus after they left the show. But that's not what this video is about today. One of the things that really stuck out to me, there was a few things, but this is the one that irritated me the most. And it was one of the contestants, so she was in a relationship, but she was pushing the wedding back. She refused to be a bride until she was 130 pounds. And that was, part of her motivation for being on the show. And I always find that interesting. People who are not trying to lose weight for their life. They're trying to lose weight for a photo. The wedding isn't just an event, it's a deadline with proof, a visual receipt, a permanent image that will live in albums, social media, and family memories forever. So now this visual pressure, right? You've had decades of being overweight, but it's this visual pressure now that's jolted her into urgency that everyday life never did. There is always some woman trying to get thin, not for herself, but for a fantasy. They need a fairy tale payoff to pursue weight loss. They will stay heavy in their daily lives. They'll avoid mirrors. They'll cope with food. But now the prince, the dress, and the audience has appeared, and suddenly she's ready to lose weight. She doesn't want to be a fat bride, but she's okay with being fat every other day. Thinness is not a costume, it's a culture. And then this is the craziest part about this woman's story. The show didn't think she was big enough. They loved her personality, they loved her background, and one of the concerns that the doctor had was that as the seasons progressed, the producers kept finding people who were larger and larger. You can't have 500-pound people doing high-intensity workouts, okay? But of course, they didn't listen to the doctor, and they asked this woman who wanted to lose weight for her wedding to gain more weight before they put her on the show. You couldn't pay me to gain weight. You couldn't pay me $1 billion to gain 50 pounds. And I'm so serious when I say that. And I was just absolutely floored because she wanted to be on TV. She thought that this show was going to save her life. She's telling us about how she wanted to lose weight, but the only reason why she got on the show was because she was willing to become fatter on purpose. And so that's the topic of today's conversation. We have made weight gain casual, profitable, and strategic. Not tragic, not uncomfortable, not a wake-up call. We've made it a plot device, a job application, a character arc. This woman literally engineered her own decline so she could become eligible for redemption. She sabotaged herself for a chance to be saved, and the producers encouraged it. We are not in a crisis of overeating. We're in a crisis of unbothered overeating, where gaining 50 pounds is considered relatable, brandable, and content-worthy. You're watching people audition their own downfall for fame. You see this with the mukbang content. And it's not a cry for help. It is a calculated collapse. And it's actually interesting because I watched the show Grotesquerie. It's fabulous if you're into like thriller, horror kind of stuff. But one of the characters on the show, the daughter, she is morbidly obese and she's actively trying to gain weight so she can get on a weight loss show. And she thinks that going on this weight loss show is going to change her life. So she's trying to gain 100 pounds. And then to sort of see this play out in real time is just absolutely horrifying to me. I don't think weight gain is casual. I don't think it's normal. And it's certainly not neutral. It's not an opportunity. It's an emergency. It is a symptom of drift, a collapse of containment, and a loss of clarity. And we have romanticized ruin. And the problem isn't the show, it's the mindset that it reflects. The woman who gains 50 pounds so she can go on a weight loss reality TV show is just the theatrical version of a woman who gains 5 pounds a year for a decade and then just calls it life. It's all the same script. This is what happens when you get older. This is what happens when you have kids. This is what happens when you're busy. No, this is what happens when you stop guarding the gate. This is what happens when leakage becomes lifestyle. Weight gain has become a slow, acceptable decay. It's not a sudden event. It's a creep. 1 pound a month, 2 pounds over the holidays, 3 pounds after a breakup, and suddenly you're 30 pounds up. And instead of intervening, we will narrate it like it's inevitable. That's just how women's bodies are. We aren't 25 anymore. Your body changes. Embrace it. But what they're calling acceptance is often just resignation. Weight gain isn't destiny. It's not biology. It's not a guarantee. It's the result of neglect that's been rebranded as grace. And the more we normalize it, the more we rob women of their agency, their alertness, their boundaries. You're not gaining weight because you're older. You're gaining weight because you stopped noticing. And that's what the show embodies, not weight loss, not healing, but the idea that transformation only comes after collapse. Because no one intervenes at 5 pounds. No one questions at 8. You wait until it's 80 and then you beg for help. The real violation isn't the weight, it's how long you let it slide. You don't gain 80 pounds. You ignore 80 warnings. Thin women panic at 5 pounds because they know what it means. It's not just weight, it's feedback. It's the body saying, hey, you're drifting. Something's leaking. Structure is slipping. Check the system. But most people, they brush it off. Oh, it's just 5 pounds. It's probably water weight. It's not that serious. And that's exactly how 5 becomes 10, 10 becomes 20, and suddenly you don't recognize yourself. Weight gain is a leak. Not a landslide. Most women don't gain 60 pounds overnight. They gain 1 pound per month from weekend indulgences they never corrected, from eating like they're still on vacation, from romanticizing fullness and calling it nourishment, from emotional grazing in the name of self-care. It's not dramatic. It's drip, 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 until your water bill is sky high, and then you're blaming inflation, not the leak under your sink. And that's what weight gain is, an ignored faucet. 5 pounds is the emergency because if you don't correct it at 5, you'll be negotiating at 15, panicking at 30, and breaking down at 50, wondering how you got here. Thinness requires alarm sensitivity. Thin women don't tolerate weight creep because they don't see 5 pounds as neutral. They see it as a threat to their system, not because they're dramatic, but because they've done this long enough to know if they don't adjust now, they'll pay for it later. They don't let the faucet drip. They shut it off. They call the plumber. They patch the pipe before the basement floods. If you're gaining weight slowly, it means you're ignoring feedback consistently. Everybody wants the shortcut. How to lose 20 pounds fast, how to drop weight in 10 days, how to slim down by the wedding. And the answer that nobody wants to hear, Don't gain it. That's it. That's the secret. You're not losing weight, you're reversing a mistake. You're not transforming, you're not on a journey. You're cleaning up a mess you could have prevented. Yeah, you can lose 5, 10, 20 pounds. There's a million crash diets, fasts, cardio binges that'll pull it off. But it always comes back. Why? Because you never fixed the leak. You just vacuumed the flood. Losing the same 20 pounds over and over again isn't discipline. It's chaos. One contestant on the show said that he's probably lost and gained 700 pounds in his lifetime. That's not a transformation story. That's a math problem. That's a failure to maintain. You're not brave. You're just in a long-term custody battle with your own body because you never stop making the same mistakes. The real trick? Don't get fat in the first place. That's it. You would not need a diet. You wouldn't need Ozempic. You wouldn't need another shame cycle if you just stopped normalizing the drift. The easiest way to lose 20 pounds is to never gain it. But you didn't protect your rhythm. You didn't audit your habits. You didn't listen to the first 5 pounds. So now you're trying to undo a collapse with urgency, obsession, and hacks. You're not on a weight loss journey. You're in a weight gain loop. You don't need a faster way to lose weight. You need a better way to not gain it. Anytime I talk about being alarmed by a 5-pound weight gain, there's somebody in my comment section talking about, this sounds like pro-Anna behavior. You're being dramatic. It's just wait, relax. But here's the real question. When did we become so comfortable with letting ourselves go? When did we decide that low standards were a form of liberation? A 5 to 10 pound gain changes everything. You need new bras, new pants, a new baseline of discomfort. You need an entirely new wardrobe. And instead of seeing that as a warning sign, you treat it like a shopping list. Some of you literally can't afford to gain weight. And this is why your jeans don't button and why your old work clothes are gasping. You're out here walking around in denim denial because you can't bring yourself or you can't afford to buy a bigger size. And even if you can afford it, should you? You're just casually gaining weight and throwing money at new clothes like it's normal. It's the same mindset of somebody spilling food and wine on their couch every night and saying, it's fine, I'll just buy a new one. No shame, no containment, just a lifestyle of spill and replace. We are living in a culture of decay. It's fine, I'll just size up. Bodies change. It's normal after kids. It's normal after 30. It's normal in the winter. So now everything is normal except standards. And this is what's interesting to me about people who have this, I need to lose weight for an event mindset. It's like the discomfort doesn't scare them anymore unless there's an audience, right? Because these people are already uncomfortable. Their jeans don't fit, their knees hurt, their digestion is a mess, their energy is low, their shirts are tight around their arms, and they're sweating through polyester, and somehow that discomfort doesn't scare them. They've made peace with being uncomfortable and looking bad doing it. Working out is uncomfortable. Eating well can be uncomfortable, but at least it comes with a payoff. These people are choosing discomfort with zero ROI. They are uncomfortable and unattractive. Why? Because 5 pounds wasn't enough to sound the alarm. You didn't wake up at 5, so now you're on fire at 50. 5 pounds didn't matter. 5 pounds was shallow. So now you're trying to lose 100 pounds for your wedding, 50 for your reunion, 20 for vacation, 10 for your birthday, and 30 after a breakup. Every time the alarm is external, you need an event to trigger effort. You need an outfit to trigger panic. You need a plane ticket to suddenly care about your body. But what about the in-between? You go on vacation once a year, so that means you let yourself unravel for 11 and a half months, and then you try to crash diet your way into a swimsuit. And that's not self-love. That's seasonal panic. That's off-duty neglect. You're not avoiding discomfort. You're delaying discomfort until it's a crisis. Oh, you'll deal with it eventually, but only once it's become humiliating, like being fat in a wedding dress. And that delay, 5 pounds really isn't that big of a deal. That's what has built the body that you're now desperate to escape. You weren't too lazy to change. You were too comfortable being uncomfortable as long as nobody was looking. YouTube took my video down this week, Skinny Girls Don't Flinch at Feedback. I've re-uploaded it on Patreon, but I'm going to say it again for you here. 2 pounds is a warning and 5 pounds is an emergency. Thin women hold the line. They don't wait until their clothes don't fit. They don't wait until they need a new wardrobe. They don't wait until they're crying in a fitting room before vacation. They weigh themselves often, consistently, and with neutrality. Why? Because they treat 2 pounds like a warning and 5 pounds like a siren. 5 pounds doesn't mean oops. It means collapse. It's not water weight. It's not your period. It's not stress. It's feedback. It's structure erosion. It's the first signal that containment is slipping, and thin women respond immediately. 2 pounds to them means time to tighten, and 5 pounds means where the hell is the leak? If you're gaining, if you get on the scale and you're up 8 pounds, I have to ask you, when was the last time you got on the scale? There's no way that you would get on the scale from yesterday to today and be up 8 pounds. You're not weighing yourself daily. And when you don't want to weigh yourself, what you're really saying is, I don't want to see myself. I don't want to face my food. I don't want to know what's real. One of the contestants, there was footage of him after he had left the show, and he got on the scale and he was up 100 pounds, and he was talking about how he hadn't realized how much weight he had put on. And I'm just sitting there like, what the hell? What do you mean? What do you mean you didn't realize you gained 100 pounds? This man has actively been avoiding a scale. A scale is not harmful. Your avoidance is. You have avoided your way up 100 pounds? A scale doesn't hurt you. A number doesn't insult you. What hurts is your own reflection. When you've ignored it for so long, it becomes foreign. Daily weighing isn't obsession. It's data collection. It's what women with maintenance skills do because they don't negotiate with drift. If you want to lose weight, learn how to not gain it. Everybody's trying to figure out how to lose 20 pounds, but the real strategy, learn to correct at 2 and learn to panic at 5 and learn to never let it become 20. And that's not disorder, that's self-awareness. That's pattern recognition. That's respect for the vessel you live in and the wardrobe that you purchased. If the scale triggers you, your habits are the problem, not the number. And I want to say one more thing on this, because there's always going to be somebody in my comment section talking about water weight or their period. Let me be clear. You should have a period tracker, a food log, and a rhythm. If you get on the scale and the number is up and you don't know why, that's not hormones and that's not water, that's ignorance. Because if you were tracking your body like you say you are, you would know the difference. If you can't tell if it's bloat or behavior, it's 1000% behavior. Thin women aren't panicking over water weight because they know what they ate. They know where they are in their cycle. They're not surprised because they're plugged in. And if you're standing on the scale confused, guessing, and spiraling, you're not regulated. You're not structured, and that weight is probably you. If you don't know whether it's real or water, it's real. Because water weight comes with a paper trail and weight gain doesn't. The woman who intentionally gained weight so she could go on a weight loss show, she's not unique. She's the blueprint. She's what happens when you live in a culture of collapse where decay is casual and discomfort is the background noise until somebody hands you a deadline. You all are playing The Biggest Loser every time you let 5 pounds slide, every time you wait for vacation to clean it up. Every time you gain weight for winter and swear you'll lose it by spring, you're playing the same game. You're living in the same delusion. I'll fix it later. I'll get serious when it matters. I'll lose it when I have a reason. But what if the reason was not gaining it in the first place? What if being light, clean, and structured was the baseline, not the emergency? What if you didn't need a show or a reunion or a breakdown to start behaving like someone who belongs in her body? This culture will always give you permission to drift. But the women who stay lean, they don't wait for permission. They don't wait for a crisis. They prevent one. You don't need another event. You need a standard. And no, I'm not going to soften the truth to keep the peace. YouTube may be fat positive, but I'm not. My uncensored takes live on Patreon. Meeting adjourned.